There have been major hearings held on Capitol Hill today regarding this disastrous war in Iran that's unlawful without authorization. I want to show you what went down on this hearing. You had the General Grynkewich, who's the U.S. commander, NATO Supreme Allied Commander. He's an Air Force General. He's the new NATO Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, and that has responsibility over areas not just in Europe, but portions of Asia and the Middle East as well. So General Grynkewich oversees this specific area. I want to show you some of the questioning that he received today, some of the admissions that were made, especially regarding the elementary school in Manab that was targeted by the United States military during the first day of strikes, resulting in the death of 150 elementary or little girls and 185 people in total. Donald Trump denies this takes place or says he doesn't know, but our intelligence and military are clearly, assessing that this happened. I want to show you what went down during the hearing this morning. Let's play this first clip.
Any person who can get satellite access to Google Maps today can see that this was a school. New York Times had no problem getting that data and information for a report today. What do you intend to do at UCOM to make sure your targeting is consistent with American values?
Yeah, Senator, thanks. Over the course of my career, I've as a fighter pilot, I've always done everything I can to avoid civilian harm and civilian casualties. And I would tell you, I'm absolutely committed to that. I know the department is committed to that. And that when tragedies like this happen, it causes us all to reflect and try to improve our processes. I've been involved in the targeting process, both at the tactical and the operational levels throughout my career. And I would tell you, we do have a number of safeguards in the system. Every single time that at the tactical level, I was going to release a weapon on a target, I was personally making an assessment as to whether there was any chance of civilian harm. And if there was that proportional to the military necessity of striking the target? At the operational level, both from my time in U.S. Central Command previously and then now at U.S. European Command, I can assure you that we have robust standards that we go through and look to see and update the imagery and update our understanding of the target and refresh the intelligence on a recurring basis to determine the chances of civilian harm and to address any collateral concerns that might be there. So you just know I'm absolutely committed to trying to mitigate that risk.
I appreciate your testimony. I'm highly concerned, however, that Secretary Hegseth does not agree with you. Secretary Hegseth has criticized rules of engagement designed to adhere to the laws of armed conflict and support civilian harm mitigation. Secretary Hegseth has also cut the Civilian Protection Center of Excellence by about 90%.
Yeah, and then I'll show you one more portion of this hearing from today. More questioning of General Grynkewich right here. Let's play it.
Rich, one of the unexpected beneficiaries of our operations in Iran has been Russia. The price of gas has increased dramatically, which benefits their economy at a point where their economy was suffering after multiple years of warfare. We've in fact lifted sanctions on the delivery of their oil with India and other countries. We are now in a position where we must send missiles, particularly Patriot, to the Gulf area to replenish our supplies rather than to provide them to Ukrainians. This all seems to be a situation where Putin is benefiting dramatically. Is that your perception that this has unexpectedly or unintentionally given him a significant increase in staying power?
Senator, a couple of thoughts on this. First, I'm very proud of the role that European Command is playing to support Operation Epic Fury. And our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians have been operating at a high tempo in the Eastern Med and elsewhere, defending alliance territory and defending our forces and projecting power into U.S. Central Command. As you noted, the price of oil and gas has gone up. We know that Putin does depend on that. I think how much he benefits from it depends on how long those prices remain elevated. I know The leadership of the department is watching this very closely. I know the president's watching this very closely, and that they're certainly concerned about the prices that are out there. So I guess on the munitions front, what I would say on that is we do continue to flow munitions into Ukraine. I could get into some of the specifics on implications in the classified session later today, but I assure you that support continues.
Well, Donald Trump had his top envoys meeting with Russia yesterday in Miami to talk not about Ukraine, but to talk about lifting more sanctions against Russia and more economic cooperation between the United States and Russia. You had Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who butchered all of the negotiations with Iran. They were meeting with Ushakov and Dmitriev in Miami, talking about helping Russia. That's why we need very serious people in Congress right now, and people who have military backgrounds who also understand this on the Democratic side. I want to introduce you to Matt Maasdam. And Matt is a Navy SEAL, served in the Navy for 20 years. Photos of Matt in the Navy. You served all over in tours of duty, whether it was in the Middle East and elsewhere. You were Obama's main military aide, meaning that you walked around with Obama holding the nuclear suitcase, which was obviously one of the highest responsibilities of anybody in the military. You're a Michigan guy. You went to college in Michigan. And now you're running for Michigan's 7th Congressional District. And with everything that's going on right now, and I think we've seen how no one doubts the power and strength of our military, its ability to execute and project power. But often powerful people, Matt, don't need to run around saying, I'm so powerful. Look at me projecting my power. Look how powerful. Also, you ran the BUDS program, or one of the leaders of the BUDS program at the Navy SEALs, and Hell Week, which is one of the toughest parts of that. So you've worked with lots of people and trained people who are in combat in addition to being in combat yourself. So I want to talk about your congressional race, of course, running for Michigan's 7th, but I want to hear your view of this moment that we're in right now, Matt.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was a SEAL for 20 years, like you said. I fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I carried the nuclear codes for President Obama, so I have a pretty good sense of what's going on. And this is one of those times where you say, like, why are we doing this? Why now? Do we have a plan? What's the mission? What's the plan to accomplish the mission? And how and when does this end? Right? This is not something you want to go into lightly. You mentioned the biggest, strongest guys don't have to show that off all the time. The people that I know that are physically the strongest, the fighter type guys, they are the kindest people you've ever met, because they don't have to show off that they're big, strong, tough guys. Everybody knows it, right? And the United States military is kind of that way. We don't have to bang our chest and lord it over people. Like, people know that we're big and strong, and we need to use that power for good. And starting another war in the Middle East that feels like a forever war, has no real goals or objectives, feels like a bad thing to me.
And Matt, even the biggest and the strongest, without planning and preparation, may not be able to use that big and strong power. I mean, you could use the analogy of just an individual person, whether it's in a boxing ring or, a UFC ring, whatever, just because you are the biggest and the toughest and you have this strength. If, someone punches you in a certain area, you're not protecting certain things, you could be hit hard, and planning is important. And obviously, taken to the more serious analogy of what's happening right now, rushing into a war, not understanding the amount of munitions that were had, not recognizing perhaps the evolution of war, where our THAADs and Patriot missiles were positioned, not understanding the extent of Iranian unmanned vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, or understanding the development of some of their cluster munitions and how they've developed things, and not, and not, I think, appreciating the defense systems that were needed by our allies in the Middle East as well to handle all of this. It just seems that there were a lot of things that if there was even, if there was planning, preparation, congressional authorization, going through a process, talking to the American people, explaining why this was absolutely necessary at the last possible circumstance, like perhaps there could be, a lot of the things that we're seeing right now are very problematic, Matt, and they're out there saying they've won. I mean, Trump's out there saying, I've won the war. I'm like, what are you talking? No, you haven't. What are you talking about?
Right. And these are the kind of things you want to see. I think everything you said is accurate. These are the kind of things you want to see the president have to make the case to the American public, right? To American citizens, have to make the case to Congress to demonstrate that they've thought through this, that they've thought through the contingencies and the concerns of our allies and have the intelligence. I spent a year on the base in Bahrain that got hit by Iranian missiles, and the Bahrainis were scared to death that this kind of thing would happen when I was over there, as are the Emiratis and the Kuwaitis, and they're taking the heavies right now. And you hate to see your allies in that situation. And, we've lost 7 American service members, and it's awful to be on the receiving end of having to bring bodies home, right? Like, those are not things you want to do. And we want to know that the president's thought through this. And I haven't seen any conclusive proof that that's true. I want to know who's around him helping make the decisions. I don't have confidence that that's happening in concert with the intelligence community and the Department of Defense and the State Department and Department of Justice and like all these people who should weigh in to whether or not we go to war. I haven't seen that that's happening.
Right. When people go back and actually listen to what General Grynkewich said right there, he uses very specific types of language about what his role is. And I think for those at the highest level of the military see that he tried to differentiate his role vis-a-vis CENTCOM to what Pete Hegseth and what others in the intelligence community are doing relative to the targeting. It was subtle, but it was obviously saying to the senators who are like, that's my role, isn't that? My role is to provide these defensive capabilities and project strength. And that's what I'm doing as the Supreme Allied Commander in Europe. But people should go back and watch that, because that's actually a very subtle thing that I think he was communicating in there. But what I want to talk about also, though, is Michigan 7th, obviously, because when I do a lot of these interviews with people running for a district against a MAGA Republican, one of the main issues are affordability and the ability to access healthcare and be able to live here in the United States. And so right now, what this war has also done is taken all those issues that if you didn't have this war would have been devastating or are devastating and catastrophic. And this has brought it to a whole new level right now, right? In terms of harming people's lives in Michigan's 7th, where you're running, Matt.
Yes, absolutely. And, as a Navy SEAL who carried the nuclear codes for President Obama, I get a lot of credit for being a veteran in the district. And it's one of those things as I make my way around, people care about 2 things primarily here. One is the defense of democracy, right? They want to see that we have a democracy, that we have freedom. They don't want to see the president's overreach into areas of the Constitution that are specifically delineated for Congress. And whether that's troops in cities or ICE issues or starting a war with Iran or tariffs, it all hurts the district, right? It doesn't make anybody's cost of living lower. So defending democracy is the one big piece, and then cost of living is the second big piece. What we're doing overseas, spending billions of dollars a day. We spent, in 2 weeks, we probably spent $25 billion. We had an Ayatollah Khomeini to start. We have a new Ayatollah Khomeini. It feels very similar. And how is this making things in my district more affordable for people? It's not. We're spending our money overseas again, rather than putting it in to the United States. And whether that's healthcare or housing or groceries or electricity, everybody's bills are higher. And we're not seeing wages go up at the same rate. And so everything is more expensive to people.
Right. And then you're running against a guy, Tom Barrett, in Michigan's 7th, the incumbent. And he's just a rubber stamp on Trump. Everything that Trump does. What can I do for you, Donald? What can I do for you, Donald? And look, I think more than ever, I mean, one, I think you're a great candidate. I think your background speaks for itself. I think in this specific moment also with Trump's unauthorized and unlawful war, we need people who are in the military. I should note that you would be the first Navy SEAL who would be a Democrat in Congress, which I think is also needed. But even if you weren't all of those things, Matt, no offense, I think we need we need a check on Trump and this out of control executive branch. We need people who understand that Article 1 makes Congress a co-equal branch of government, and that it is supposed to use the phrase of the general, assert its power to be a check independently and to represent constituents, not represent the Epstein class and Mar-a-Lago clubs and golden ballrooms, to represent what the people in Michigan are actually experiencing. And so I think that's needed, given especially Barrett's a Trump sycophant in Michigan right there. And that's not good right now.
No, that's not good. You know, CNN called this race the tipping point for the House of Representatives. And it's one that is going to be very important in which direction the country goes. And, you know, we want to talk about values like judgment and trust, and things like carrying the nuclear codes for the president help exhibit that President Obama had that trust in me to be there when things could be at their worst, right? When we're literally determining the fate of humanity, I was around the president for those decisions. And so it's very important. And every vote that Tom Barrett has taken regarding this district has harmed the district. He has made it worse for Michigan states in my district. He made it worse for the universities. He's made it worse for kids who need food. He's made it worse for people who want healthcare. Smaller rural hospitals are closing. Access is less people have healthcare, and that's his fault. That's Tom Barrett's fault. And I'm here to say that's not okay. And we're going to take the House back, and we're going to get the country on a better track.
Where can people learn more about the campaign, Matt, and any final thing you want to say to our almost 7 million subscribers here?
Yeah, the mattmaasdam.com is, you know, my headquarters for the campaign. This is one of those races that's super expensive. It will be one of the 2 most expensive House races in the country. So if you had it in you to throw a couple bucks our way, that'd be fantastic as well. And you can see the website and dig into the issues and hear what's happening in Michigan 7.
Matt Maasdam, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you, Ben.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.